Hi, welcome to another live edition of Let's Get Horse here on ABR. I am Billy Koch, the founder and managing partner of the Little Red Feather Racing Club. At BKLRF is my Twitter handle. I didn't even like Twitter until a couple of weeks ago when we decided to start the show. I have great guests today. This is unbelievable. The national correspondent for Daily Racing Form, Jay Privman, my guy. He's here with us. Thank you for coming on, Jay. How's everything going?
Good, Billy. How are you?
I'm very hairy.
You look like one of those black and white cookies you get in the deli down there.
You know those are my favorite. Do you go that or do you go sprinkles?
No, I always look for the cookie. I look for the cookie.
Also with me, Not Nakatani, the son of Corey Nakatani, the agent for Mario Gutierrez. Matt, welcome to the show. I have no idea if you can hear me.
I can hear you. Thanks for having me, Billy. Always a pleasure.
You look good. You look very cleaned up right now. Is this normal for you?
I had to look clean for the camera now.
Okay, all right. Well, here,
14 life is treating me good. So
the big news on Twitter this week is the Hall of Fame, the Horse Racing Hall of Fame. First of all, congrats to Wise Dan. Congrats to Mark Casse for kind of leading the charge this year in 2020. But we have some issues. Jay, first of all, tell us about the process. Who votes for this, and what is the actual process that goes into choosing the Hall of Fame inductees?
Sure. So there's several parts of the Hall of Fame that voting, but let's stick with the contemporary ballot, which is what everybody is most familiar with. So in order to be on the contemporary ballot, a trainer has to have trained for 25 years or more, a jockey has to have ridden for 20 years or more, and a horse has to be retired for 5 years or more. Names are submitted to the Hall of Fame by anybody, and then a nominating committee of 16 people, and I'm one of the 16 on that committee, go through all the names and come up with a ballot, which this year there were 11 names, be it horses, trainers, or one jockey who got forwarded to the final ballot. Then the Hall of Fame itself sends out that ballot to approximately 165 voters, and those voters can vote for as many who are on the ballot as they want. They can vote for all 11, they can vote for none. There's no restrictions on that. But the ones who get in, and this year, as you pointed out, there were just 2 who got in, Wise Dan and Mark Casse, they have to get 50% plus 1 vote in order to get in. So those 2 got in and the other 9 fell short. So that's how it works.
It makes a lot of sense. Matty Nakatani, obviously there's some disappointment here. Do you think there's an East Coast bias possibly going on? And then we'll get into your dad's stuff.
You never know. You never know when it comes down to. But at the end of the day, I think the accolade should reign supreme, and that's what we're here to vote for.
Well, let's go into that, because that's obviously the question we have. I think the 3 of us all think Corey Nakatani, your dad, one of the greatest jockeys I've seen, especially growing up on the West Coast, is a deserved member of the Hall of Fame. Matt, tell the people out there in Twitter land why he is deserving of the Hall of Fame.
Putting my personal, obviously bias aside, he is my father, but at the end of the day, just his natural gifted abilities on a horse. You can see in his throughout his career the ability he has just to get along with the horse, the patience, and ultimately the amount of wins and the grade ones, the graded stakes. He stacks up there with the top 15 of guys all time. He's obviously top 12 in earnings. That's $234 million throughout his career. 120 grade ones, over 600 stakes wins, over 340 graded stake wins. The list just goes on. And obviously, from my standpoint, it's very disheartening for my dad, and I feel strongly upset for him, because I know this is something that could obviously top off his career, based on the retirement he had. He still could be riding today if he didn't have that injury about 2 years ago at Del Mar. And I still think even at age 49, he'd still be riding circles around majority of the colony.
I can feel your emotion. Is your dad actually sad about this? If you speak to him, does he feel this?
Yeah, it's hard to ever get a real honest answer to my dad. He's so competitive, and that's what I think drove his career so many different directions. He may have been misinterpreted at times. And at the end of the day, he just wanted to win. And for a guy that wants to win and to win amount of many races that he did.
Yeah, no, we hear you loud and clear. 120 grade 1 wins. Jay, why isn't Corey Nakatani in the Hall of Fame?
Well, you'd have to ask somebody who didn't vote for him that question. So I can't.
I couldn't find anybody.
You're right, because but let me add a couple other things to what Matt, quite accurately pointed out. First off, this isn't the last time Corey will be on the ballot, and I'm hoping that the voters who vote in subsequent years, re-examine the totality of his career, which includes 10 Breeders' Cup wins, which puts him in the top 10 all time. And don't forget, he rode the first part of his career when the Breeders' Cup was only a 1-day 7-race event. It wasn't a 2-day 14-race extravaganza that it is now. So he had less opportunity back in that era. He never won a Triple Crown race, but he did win just about every other major race there was in the country, including 2 runnings of the Kentucky Oaks. And when you look at all the jockeys that have ridden over all the years in Southern California, to think that Corey Nakatani is second all-time in stakes wins at Del Mar and is 9th overall in stakes wins at Santa Anita. And think about all the riders that have ridden at those 2 tracks over the last 80 plus years. For him to be in that category tells you what he did for the scope of his career. And that's, to me, what the Hall of Fame should be. You're looking at what somebody accomplished for their career, not just what they did for a year or two, which is what the Eclipse Awards are an annual thing. The Hall of Fame is for the accomplishments of one's career. And I think when you really look dispassionately at what Corey Nakatani did for the totality of his career, he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Jay. And I think your arguments on Twitter, and I think, Matt, you were very out there. And obviously it's for your dad. It's family, right? Mm-hmm. There's a couple other snubs, Jay. I can't point because I never know what, but this guy, Kona Gold, behind me. I only have 3 horses in my office. Jay, how did Kona Gold not get in the Hall of Fame? What do we have to do?
Well, that is the one that really made me the angriest of all, because I don't know how you could look at what he did and not think that he's one of the best sprinters we've ever seen of all time, let alone of recent years. He was in the Breeders' Cup 5 straight years. He won one of them. One of the times that he was beaten and finished second, he got a Beyer speed figure in defeat of 123 in a race in which the winner set a track record. He set 2 track records during his career, one at Santa Anita, one at Churchill Downs. He ran a Beyer speed figure of 115 or higher 10 times and 110 or higher 17 times. I mean, he had a remarkable career. And to me, if again, this is another one where you asked me before, why didn't Corey Nakatani get in? I said, well, you'd have to ask somebody who didn't vote for him. I say the same when it comes to Kona Gold. I don't get it. I don't know how you could look at what he did and not vote for him.
Jay Bird, you're hitting it. Matty, best horse Corey ever rode that he told you about. What was his best horse?
One of his favorites, I can say, is definitely Lava Man. It kind of outlined his career. He always says that he never needed the best horse to win a race, but a horse that came from, the 50 claiming ranks at Bay Meadows, I think it was, to go on to win the first horse to ever win the 3 series of the Hollywood Gold Cup, Santa Anita Handicap, and Pacific Classic in one year. That's probably his favorite horse of all time. Now, there's many tells me
I know
the abilities and shared belief as a 2-year-old was the best 2-year-old he's ever ridden. Sandpit was always one of his favorite horses back in the 90s. And, with that being said, a strong point, I think, to his career was in the 90s when he did the most of his damage riding. It was against a Hall of Fame colony. Every jock in the room, there was probably 10 deep of the Pink Guys, the Delahousie's, the Sormo, Stevens, Mike Smith. The room goes on and on.
Don't forget
McCarron. Yeah. Absolutely. Those guys, I think, is where he learned from, and he was able to really mark his career.
Jay Bird, Matt mentioned that his dad rubbed people the wrong way sometimes. How do you think that comes into play when we're talking about voting for the Hall of Fame?
I would really hope not, because I think a lot of the people who are voting probably don't even know Kona Nakatani. And, what Matt said about his competitive nature is true. I mean, Corey, all he wanted to win, and he was fearless. You think of some of the rides that he put up where he would come through along the rail going through holes that nobody else would have gone through. He was an incredibly competitive rider. And if people are, if that is a reason that some aren't voting for him, to me, that's not a good excuse. You need to leave your personal opinions of someone aside. You need to look dispassionately at their record and then judge accordingly. And I think anybody who does that and looks at what Kona Nakatani accomplished should be voting for him.
Makes a lot of sense. Guys, you guys have been incredible. One last question, the bonus question of the day. Jay, I'm going to start with you. Do we think Santa Anita's opening next Friday? And then go right to Matt.
They've made every plan possible. They've put out a condition book. They're just waiting to get the official green light. I know they're supposed to take entries on Tuesday for Friday's card, but as of right now, they still don't have the official word from the government authorities to go forward. But here's hoping that in the next day or two that they do, because all of us out here in California, and that includes the three of us, would love to see that happen.
All right, Maddie.
I hope so. I
know
think
we want to run, but are we going to run?
I hope we get to run. From my standpoint with Mario, I mean, we're just been sitting on these horses for so long. The 2-year-olds are now coming around. We're so excited to get back to racing and really show everyone what we got. I think it's going to happen. As far as I think I saw yesterday, actually, the supervisor of LA County tweet out that they're in the kind of the first stages of reopening their processes, and that includes the golf courses. The stores can now be selling from curbside, and I think it's getting there. There's
a breath. There's hope in the air. Both of you. Cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Maddie, we know we're getting back soon. Your dad will be on the ballot again next year. Jay Bird, appreciate all your insight. You're the best. We have a tweet. Benny asked Benny South Street, I'm still a better golfer than Corey and Matt. That's very funny, Benny. We hear you out there. Guys, if you want to get on this show, all you got to do is tweet ABR, tweet me at BKLRF. It's fun. We want you to have opinions. These guys have great opinions. Go knock. Let's get Santa Anita open. And I can't wait to see you guys again soon. I may shave one of